I'm standing on the quayside overlooking Ramsey Bay in the Isle of Man. It's taken me more than 40 years to get here. Let me tell you the story.
Going back in time on the sounds of the nation, it's the Caroline Flashback.
Can't buy me love. It was 1964, the height of Beatlemania. I was a 9-year-old growing up in Wigan, less than 20 miles away from Liverpool. But on the wireless, you'd rarely hear the Fab Four.
Good morning, this is the BBC Light programme. In a moment, a summary of the news and weather. Then, bright and early, half an hour of music, followed at 7 o'clock by more morning music.
No thanks. We did have Saturday Club and Pick of the Pops at weekends, and you could just about pick up Radio Aaron broadcasting from Dublin, where you'd get the odd smattering of pop records during the day. And at night, there was always good old Luxie.
For all that's worthwhile, your radio dial is on Radio Luxembourg.
But then the signal would always fade, just at the moment when they're about to play a decent record. But then, in the summer of that year, something happened that changed my life.
You're listening to Radio Caroline on 199, your all-day music station, England's first commercial radio station.
Wow.
You know you make me wanna shout.
This was revolutionary. Pop records on the radio all the time. Well, till 6 at night in the early days. But for the next 3 and a bit years, my radio dial was locked to 199. But media coverage of Caroline then and now tends to focus on people like Simon D, its first voice.
You're tuned to Radio Caroline on 199, your all-day music station.
Tony Blackburn, the first DJ superstar.
Tony Blackburn here with All Systems Go.
And Johnny Walker, the man who took Caroline into illegality.
This is Radio Caroline. It is now 12 midnight.
But they were all on Caroline South, broadcasting to London and the home counties. For kids like me in the north of England and those in the Midlands, North and Mid Wales, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland.
Well, I feel alright.
We had another Radio Caroline.
The other Radio Caroline, the story of Caroline North, presented by Paul Rowley.
The motor vessel Caroline arrived in the north on Monday, July the 6th, 1964, after an incredibly circuitous voyage. The ship was a converted passenger ferry from Denmark, originally known as the MV Fredericia. It was registered in Panama, and it had spent the early part of the year in Southern Ireland, being secretly fitted out with a massive 165-foot aerial in the little-used port of Greenore. It then sailed to the southeast of England, where it began broadcasting on Easter Saturday, becoming Britain's first offshore radio station.
This is Radio Caroline on 199, your all-day music station. The time right now is 1 minute past 12, and that means it's time for Christopher Moore.
Hello and happy Easter to all of you. This is Christopher Moore with the first record program on Radio Caroline.
It was no great surprise that Caroline was an instant hit. Within weeks, a reported 7 million people were listening, but the UK authorities had no jurisdiction over her. As she was anchored more than 3 miles offshore, she was in international waters, outside the control of the British government. The man behind Caroline was Ronan O'Reilly, an enterprising music promoter in his mid-20s.
At that time, it was the beginning of a revolution. There was the Beatles and all that whole music explosion happening. There was the Mary Quant thing happening. There were films like Saturday Night and Sunday Morning. There was a whole kind of batch of things happening that all had the same kind of freshness and originality about them. And Caroline was like one of those things.
We'll dream together.